watching KWQC TV, making a difference in the Quad Cities. Live from the Quad Cities, with Morgan Otier and Kyle Keel, this is Quad Cities Live.
Thank you so much for joining us on Quad Cities Live. I'm Morgan Otier. It is a very special edition of QCL as we put the spotlight on an important organization with an approach starting from birth and working to support individuals as they embark on careers and start their own families. We're talking about United Way Quad Cities. And here to kick things off is Renee Gellerman, President and CEO of United Way QC. Renee, welcome back. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Morgan. Yes, thrilled to be here.
We're so happy to have you and everybody else that's going to be on the show today. It's going to be a wonderful show.
Yeah.
So let's start with the basics. Who is United Way Quad Cities?
Well, we're a social change organization, and true to our name, we unite businesses, individuals, nonprofits, school districts, and many others to really work to achieve measurable outcomes and create transformational change across the Quad Cities.
Absolutely, and it has evolved.
Yeah.
So when we think of United Way has been around for a very, very long time. It's something that our parents remember supporting or hearing about, our grandparents. But you know, the point is you evolve with the needs of your community, and that's something that this has done.
Yes, absolutely. We aren't your grandparents United Way any longer, that's for sure. We're really fueled by our dedicated supporters, and I'm sure many of them are your viewers, who are helping us drive progress in the areas of youth opportunity and education, financial security and workforce, and health to improve lives across the region.
Absolutely, those are your pillars at United Way, and they cover a lot, which means there are a lot of different divisions and organizations that are part of United Way, which we're going to be learning about throughout the show today. So last summer, United Way QC conducted a community-wide survey. So that led to some insights and some trends. Can you talk more about first the decision, I suppose, to do this survey and kind of some of the things that you learned?
Yeah, well, data really drives our work. It's really the foundation of our community impact work. And so we often set 10-year goals, and we base those on expertise that we received, data, research, and sometimes use outside evaluators like we did in this case to create a report on what are the conditions in our community, what are the biggest challenges, and what are the biggest opportunities, so that we can align all of our funding, our investments, and priorities to really address those.
Okay, so some of the things that came from this, it underscored something that you already probably knew, which is the power of partnerships.
Yes.
Which we're going to see today as we talk more about United Way, that collaboration, how important that it is. So talk about the insights from the survey, how it's going to be used to support future efforts, initiatives, and collaborations. You already talked about, you know, that everything is very data driven, so this is something that you need to, you know, to present to potential partners and things like that. But I'm sure looking at the next 5-10 years, this is going to be incredibly useful.
Yeah, it allows us to be a little bit more nimble and flexible, and allows us to accelerate in specific areas. So some of the findings from the report included an increase in childhood poverty. And as that's increasing, we've also seen in education that since the pandemic, we've had third grade reading proficiency has increased about 15% in the last 3 years. And in the area of income or financial security, we're seeing we're about flat on young people who are earning a living wage, but we know we have to do more to accelerate people who have the right skills and talent for the jobs of today and tomorrow. And then that collaboration piece that you mentioned, Morgan, is so critical. We have thousands of donors. In fact, they helped change the lives of 90,000 people in the Quad Cities last year, which is 25% of our population.
Wow.
And when we surveyed them, we learned that collaboration and collective problem solving is really a priority to our donors and our investors. And so we're really fortunate that we partner with 51 community impact partners who are all working towards the same goals and strategies to move the needle in really important areas in our community.
Absolutely. And you started to touch on some of the different statistics and findings, and we do have a graphic that shows them, and I think it's important for for people to just see, not only here on the screen. So 1 in 4 Quad Cities children live in poverty. Again, this is specific to the Quad Cities. Only half of our kindergartners are starting school ready to actually be in kindergarten, ready to learn. 55% of Quad Cities third graders, as you mentioned, are already at grade level reading. 1 in 3 Quad Cities middle schoolers are chronically absent. So once they get to that age, they're not going to school anymore. And then 1 in 4 Quad Cities juniors are not on track to graduate. When you present that information to some of your partners or prospective donors, I mean, is that as shocking to them as I think it would be just to somebody watching the show today?
Yeah, it is, and it's disappointing, isn't it? But some of these things are solvable issues. There's a lot in the community that's not solvable, or at least easily solvable. But these issues stack on each other. If we can get more kids ready to be successful in kindergarten, they're going to be reading by third grade, and then they're going to be ready to graduate, prepared for college or career. And that's why we're so focused on those areas that you talked about, because they're building blocks. And when one of them is weak, it's so much harder for a kid to get back on track.
Sure.
So we have a lot of partners that help us do this work. No one is going to be able to do it alone. And I'm so excited that you're going to be meeting a lot of those today.
Yeah, really looking forward to it. Okay, so Renee is actually going to be joining us later in the show. She's not going anywhere, but in the meantime, if you're eager to learn more about United Way Quad Cities, visit the organization at unitedwayqc.org. And still to come on QCL, we're going to hear more from the United Way team about the different focus areas within education and the impact on students as young as 5 years old. That's coming up next.
You're watching Quad Cities Live.
National and regional data provided by United Way shows that education is the best pathway out of poverty. About 20% of children in the Quad Cities live in poverty, and only half of children ages 3 to 4 are enrolled in early childhood education programs. But United Way partnerships are helping prepare kids for kindergarten success and lifelong learning, and that's what we're learning about today. Here with more on that is Annette Perico from Women United and Cassie Stewart, the VP of Education for United Way. Ladies, thanks for being here today.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks. We just have so much to cover today when it comes to United Way, but we're starting young because that's what you do at United Way. Is you start with the kids. So Cassie, talk a little bit about why access to early education and kindergarten readiness is so important, specifically to kids in the Quad Cities.
Yeah. So it's a fact that's fun to know is that by age 5, 90% of brain growth has happened, and so we know that we need to be reaching kids when they're very young. And in the Quad Cities, specifically, 30,400 children came into kindergarten last year, and only about 1,100 of them had access to quality early learning programs. And so we know that by the time kids are hitting kindergarten at 5 years old, their growth is almost all the way done, and we need to be reaching them when they're in those earlier stages. So that's what we're trying to do at United Way.
Absolutely. So why should we all care then that all students in the QC have access to early learning like preschool? Because I think, you'll have people out there that'll go, well, my grandkids, I mean, they went to preschool, and what do I care if, the neighbors' kids, grandkids went to preschool,
right.
but we do need to care.
Right. It's the foundation to have a healthy community, quite honestly. Looking at those numbers that you had put up right before the last break, you saw that when kids are coming and they're 50% proficient when they hit kindergarten, and then by the time that they're in third grade, they're still 50% proficient, that has an impact. Everything is connected. It's interdependent. So we know that by making sure that all kids in the Quad Cities have access, it ultimately leads to more kids graduating high school and living productive lives and strengthening our community as a whole.
Yeah, in long-range terms, it is good for our community. It's good for the Quad Cities. So we want to dig a little deeper into what United Way is doing to address those issues, and that's where we're going to bring in Annette. Tell us about Women United and kind of the work that that organization is doing to get every QC kid ready for kindergarten.
Sure. So kindergarten readiness has always been a focus of United Way, and specifically Women United and its networks works to ensure that all kids in the Quad Cities are ready for kindergarten. And we like to focus on a few different things. First of all, access to quality childcare is really important for those kiddos. We also have a parent empowerment workshop, which we call Ready by 5, that helps parents and caregivers understand what needs to be done with the kids at such an early age in their development. We also provide professional development for childcare providers in the area, which is definitely a plus.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, you bring up a good point. Actually, you both did. The fact that children are learning so much by the age of 5, or they're consuming so much by the age of 5. You know, there's not a lot of parents out there that necessarily, they don't know that information. They don't know what they should be doing to make sure that their kids are getting the most out of learning before they even start kindergarten. So let's talk a little bit more, Annette, about Ready by 5, which you just mentioned. This is a 5-week program, or how long is the program?
So it's a 6-week program. Okay. It's Ready by 5 is an initiative based on 5 basic principles that really are common sense things that you would do with your kids just during, you know, daily life, talking with your children and getting them to understand the little things about what you're doing during the day, loving them and playing with them, getting on the floor. That really develops some of their social skills and really starts to build their just different skills of...
Well, yeah, but on top of that, though, but I think it's important because you say, like, you know, these, for a lot of folks who are going to be watching this, we're going to go, of course, well, these are common sense things. Of course I'm going to talk to my child. Of course I'm going to love my child and play with my child. But when you're considering a community that is potentially dealing with poverty and things like that, and you have parents who are busy, who are working all the time, sometimes it is helpful to have some guidance, to have that mentoring, to show you that these are the things, and these are why they're important. Of course you love your child, but why is it so important that we're showcasing that, right?
Right, and developing those early skills for sure. And we have a texting program, just to add to what you were saying, where parents can sign up for a weekly text message that will give them information based off of their child's age and their appropriate development stage, just giving them little tips or maybe fun games to play with their child.
That's great. And you brought some items with you here today. So Cassie, these are items that parents get when they participate in this program?
Yes, so each week is aligned to one of those 5 principles that we shared, and they get a couple books, an activity that aligns with that, and stuff that they get to take home with them and build their home library and interact with their kids.
Yeah, that's wonderful. There's a lot of really great stuff here, a lot of really great books, and just, you know, things that you can play with, and they're going to be using different motor skills and things. So Women United, Cassie, has been championing early learning for more than a decade. So you've actually served hundreds of families at this point. Even in the last year alone, I think it was, I was reading your statistics, I think it was close to 100 families. Yeah. Just in 1 year.
Yeah, the program, the Ready by 5 parent workshops, have served over 100 families already since September. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, over the course, you know, they've been around for over a decade, and 2,000 children have been touched by the work that Women United started over a decade ago.
Wow, that's really powerful to hear that and know that you're really working towards something. Beyond that, how are children and families who have participated in the program, do you follow up with them? I mean, how are they participating and performing in school?
Yeah, so we do, we always are tracking data, like Renee had mentioned, so it has shown that there's been a great impact on that kindergarten readiness. We can track the students who had parents that went through the Ready by 5 program.
Oh, wow.
And so that's been very promising. And also those facilitators, once we have the facilitators doing those parent workshops, they stay in touch with those families, and there's so many stories of how the work that they did during that time and the people that they met and networks that were built have helped them in parenting and just kind of, you know, not feeling so alone as a young parent.
Absolutely, and it's just like a meaningful connection, I feel like, that you can kind of carry with you. So anybody can actually sign up for the texting service or the workshops at no cost. All those details can be found at unitedwayqc.org/readyby5. Very easy to find. Cassie and Annette, thank you so much for coming on the show today and just kind of spreading the information for folks that may not have ever heard of this before. It's you know, hugely important. So thank you.
Right.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, of course. Well, still to come on this special United Way edition of QCL, United for Schools. We'll learn more about how United Way is integrating student support, wraparound services to hundreds of area students.
You're watching Quad Cities Live.
United for Schools is a collaboration with local districts that currently offers support services to about 750 students, and the impact of the initiative will more than double in the new year, setting more students up for long-term success. Reagan Baker is the United Way QC Student Success Director, and Dr. Rachel Savage is the Superintendent of the Moline-Cole Valley School District. Ladies, thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
Yes, we really appreciate you coming in and talking all about this. So Reagan, we'll start with you. Talk a little bit more about United for Schools, what it is, and why it's so important to students, and specifically students right here in the Quad Cities.
Right, so United for Schools really engages the community by bringing additional resources into Title I schools, both in Rock Island and Scott County school districts.
Okay.
Data and research has shown that by providing integrated student support, students are able to level the playing field to kind of remove barriers and prevent any areas that students need for growth. One of the ways that we have partnered with one of the best in the nation for integrated student supports, which has allowed us to double our efforts, now being from 2 Title I schools to now serving in 5.
Okay, yeah, that was going to be my, where we were going next, because in October you made this big announcement that you're going to be expanding from 2 schools or districts or schools to
5 schools in the Quad Cities.
5 schools in the Quad Cities. So this brings it up from what, 750 students that are going to be impacted by this to close to 2,000
students, yes.
That's incredible.
Absolutely.
Okay, so talk a little bit about that partnership and how exciting it is that you're able to do this.
Right, so coming along now with the Balmer grant, which is secures $1 million, dollar for dollar, local dollars raised, which has allowed us to expand, but also along with that, 5 site coordinators are going to be at those schools.
Wonderful.
And those 5 site coordinators are going to be analyzing data. They're going to be looking at how can we provide supports not only to those students, can we go beyond that and provide support to those families as well.
Sure.
Wraparound services for the entire child.
Wonderful. Okay, so yeah, I want to talk a little bit more about site coordinators in just a minute. But Dr. Savage, I also wanted to talk a little bit, because you are, your schools are impacted by this, what a Title I school is for folks that are watching right now and a little bit confused by that.
Sure, we're really grateful to have the United for Schools grant at Washington Elementary in the Moline-Cole Valley School District. And Title I is a federal grant allocated to schools in the country with a certain percentage of free and reduced lunch, as well as a number of other factors. So that provides a critical level of extra funding for us to meet students' needs, as Reagan was saying, especially addressing needs of the whole child. Yeah. So we know that students in need of extra assistance is increasing rapidly. And the United for Schools grant really gives us a leg up in being able to serve those students, so that more students can be successful in the classroom.
Well, it's huge. I mean, and I think we touched on it potentially in our segment with Renee at the beginning of the show today, but it's noted in the Community Insights report that students who are, growing up in low-income families, they do face persistent barriers to success. So when you're talking about kindergarten readiness, when you're talking about older kids that are in schools and things like that, those wraparound services, they become increasingly important. So that's where the Title I schools come in and where this help comes in. Amazing. Okay, I want to go back to the site coordinators, because this is very exciting. So you're going to be able to have more site coordinators at these 5 schools that are going to be helping out. So what specifically, if I were a site coordinator, what would I be doing?
Right, so you'll be providing services from case management for students, so Tier 1 to Tier 3. So students will be able to meet with a site coordinator. That site coordinator could also collaborate with community partners, really work internally in the school building and see what supports are already happening, and find new opportunities for partnerships. One of the unique things about United for Schools is it's community oriented. So how can we engage the community by bringing those resources into the building? And then that site coordinator also works with the building, the administrator, to say, hey, what are the needs of your building and how can we make an impact by providing those support services to the students?
Okay, wow. So it's very, tailored to the specific needs of either a student or a set of students in a specific school, neighborhood. Wow, amazing that you can do that. So, and I think it's important to note that this is beyond what you would normally find in a school or a school district. So, Dr. Savage, typically school budgets, they're not going to be covering the cost of something like this.
Right. The majority of school district budgets go to salaries and benefits for our educators, our most important critical resource in the classroom. And so the United for Schools grant really provides that extra layer to help meet more of the non-academic needs that you've been hearing a lot about today. So it really helps us stretch those dollars to make sure that, as Reagan said, we're able to address the whole child. We just had the opportunity to meet our new site coordinator at Washington Elementary. The staff and the leadership, they are absolutely ecstatic, and so are the kids. We know that our principal has a full plate, the teachers have a full plate, all the support staff has a full plate. So this coordinator is just an extra set of hands to help collect all of the community resources and bring them together under one roof, and that just makes it more accessible for families, and that means more kids being served and just a better chance for overall academic success in the classroom.
Yeah, absolutely. What a position to hold, to just be, you know, somebody for not only the students but those family members and teachers and staff as well. So you mentioned integrated student supports. So what exactly is that? Is that something that the site coordinator is involved with?
Yeah, so integrated student supports is a school-based model that really focuses on academic and non-academic supports for students. So trying to look at what barriers are preventing a student from being successful. So looking at basic needs. Does a student need food? Does it need access, or do they need transportation so they can get to school regularly? And then some of the student supports that we already have, examples include books and barbers, where students can get free haircuts, free haircuts along with really increasing literacy and a mentorship. Love Girls on Fire, so really promoting storytelling and dance. And then Vision to Learn for students that do have barriers to where they don't have access to appropriate glasses so they can see. Those are some of the supports we currently have, and so those integrated student supports make sure that they get what they need at the building and they don't have to go out further beyond that.
That's amazing. And I think too, I mean, I'm sure it's something that Dr. Savage, you have seen in your career. It could be as simple as a pair of glasses that could really level the playing field for a student who otherwise would just be falling so far behind.
100%. And if these are resources that we can help the parents, so that the parents can focus on the things that they need to, making sure that they have a warm, safe home for their child and have employment and meet the needs that they have. We have a lot of folks in need in our community, and this just is one layer of support that lends a hand to our amazing parents who are doing everything they can to help their kids be successful. It's just a beautiful collaboration of just a variety of different agencies coming together for a common goal, and that's our kids, our youngest Quad citizens, and we're just grateful to be a part of it in Moline.
Absolutely, it's very touching. Well, if you want to learn more about youth opportunities, just visit unitedwayqc.org/United for Schools, which is what this segment was about, and we'll be sure to get that on our website for you. Reagan and Dr. Savage, thank you very much for just coming on and explaining everything to us. We really appreciate it. Well, still to come in our next half hour of this special edition of Quad Cities Live, Serving with Purpose. We'll learn more about the impact of United Way's annual Day of Caring. And later, with tax season right around the corner, we'll focus on how United Way Quad Cities is empowering individuals with financial security. But first, meteorologist Kyle Dickens is going to join us with a check of your full forecast. That's coming up next.
And now your first alert forecast with meteorologist Kyle Dickens.
And quite the change out there. Taking a look at our Skyview camera here in Rock Island. Looking off to the west towards I-280. We're starting to see some snow moving in. Another band is about to set way through here. And we're starting to see that pick up there. 34 degrees right now. Feels like 25. That south-southeast wind coming in about 15 miles an hour. Anywhere from 10 to 15. Out to the east, Princeton. You just had a heavy band of snow move through. Now moving into eastern Bureau County. Sterling Rock Falls. Same to you. That's wave 1, wave 2. Now moving into the metro. We zoom in, and over the next half hour or so, we could see a quick burst of some heavy snow. Some pockets of heavier activity certainly possible, but it moves through quickly. That's the thing. We're not expecting any major travel issues with it, but reduced visibility, maybe some slick spots can't be ruled out. So give yourself a little extra time. Dusting to 1 inch is going to be the general range for snowfall potential today, with more as further north you get of Highway 30, that's the area that we could see closer to 1 inch. This moves through. Here's a good look at it. And could see some spots of mix to the south as well in the southern portion of the viewing area. Once we get to 11 o'clock, the bulk of the activity moves off to the east. We could see another wave of it in our eastern counties as that low pressure system moves through. that moves out by the time we get to commute time tomorrow, and cold temperatures move in. In fact, those feel like temperatures here throughout the day. Friday, low 20s expected. And then once we get into Saturday, it's the first official day of winter. Certainly going to feel like it, as 11 degrees is what the feel like temperature will be as we wake up on Saturday morning there. So as we get into the evening hours, got any plans? Again, might be dodging those snow showers. Temperatures are really going to start to tumble once we get into the overnight hours. Next 7 days, AM flakes possible tomorrow. Once we get into the day on Saturday, 26 degrees, cloudy skies. We do warm up, though, pretty quickly here once we get to Sunday, back into the mid-30s. 40s return here for Monday, and then, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like we'll have a white Christmas, more of a brown Christmas probably, with temperatures close to 40 degrees.
All right, Kyle, thank you. A mission of United Way Quad Cities is mobilizing the community to action. And a good example of that is, of course, United Way's Day of Caring. Every year, more than 1,000 people come together on a single day to make an impact. Joining me now is Daniel Sheridan and Mary Pat Tubb. Thank you both for being here today and talking about this, really great arm of United Way Quad Cities. Now, Daniel, you are with Community Impact, the entire team there. So talk a little bit about what that is and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so United Way, taking the Day of Caring, for instance, we're all about coalition and convening, building people to have high impact in our community. So United Way Day of Caring, of course, is our highest visible event, and it's a great way to serve on a single day. Okay. But truly, we are building coalitions and taking action all throughout the year. So if you look at the Day of Caring, we at United Way are building relationships with nonprofit, public, grassroots sectors to understand what their needs are in order to serve the community. And then we're aligning our volunteers, which are individuals, businesses, and corporations who want their employees doing good in the community. But then even beyond that, our unions and then community leaders. And once we hone in on a target, we're able to offer a high impact opportunity for everybody involved. So, I think during COVID, a lot of people kind of paused and took an assessment on, what they wanted to be doing with their time. And we're finding cross-generationally, people want to know when they're serving that it has purpose, meaning, and is high impact. And that is what we are doing day in and day out. And last year alone, we mobilized 3,300 volunteers to serve 19,500 hours. And the dollar value is $650,000 of value going back into our community through service.
Yeah, incredible. Well, and Mary Pat, a good example of that. So you are a board member, but you also work with John Deere, correct? Yep. And so John Deere, as we know, heavily involved in United Way's Day of Caring and beyond. I mean, 365 days a year, and John Deere employees are looking for ways to volunteer and support with United Way. But just talk a little bit about, John Deere and your involvement in this Day of Caring.
Sure, yeah. So Day of Caring is a huge event for us, but overall, I mean, last year John Deere employees contributed over $1.3 million to United Way. Wow. Part of that was done through our Dollars for Doers program, where the John Deere Foundation matches our time with an investment from the John Deere Foundation. And so in total, across all of the organizations in the Quad Cities, John Deere employees volunteered 75,000 hours in the Quad Cities last year. And a huge part of that would not have happened without the United Way being a partner for us to help organize these types of activities that Daniel talked about that are high impact, right? Our employees, they want to do more, right? They want more from work than just work. They want to know that they have the ability through their workplace to make a difference in their own communities. The United Way helps to make that happen for us.
Yeah, it's huge. The Dollar for Dollar program as well. People will learn a little bit more about that actually tomorrow as well on our show. That is an incredible program that has just allowed employees to give back in many different ways. So speaking of volunteers and volunteering, what I found really interesting, Daniel, was volunteers on your investment panels. Yeah. So this would strike some people as something really unique and interesting that they could get involved in.
Absolutely. It's one of the things that I love about our team is when we say we're committed to community, we mean it. So, last year we invested in our cycle $2.8 million with 51 different nonprofits who are committed to improving access in both Scott and Rock Island counties. And this year we're actually in our 3-year investment strategy process. So we have 9 key areas that we're focused on, things like kindergarten readiness, financial literacy, mental health. But these 9 investment panels end up being filled with community volunteers. About 120 volunteers will fill these panels, and over the course of 3 months, they're going to meet with nonprofit leaders, understand the applications that they've put in for, assess all of the applications, and then they're the ones who make the recommendations back to the United Way board about the best option and the best way to move the needle for our community.
Well, I think that's so incredible because there's no better way to interact and learn about the organizations that are helping the folks in our community than going and speaking to them directly. And is that something that you're involved in as an investment panel at all?
Yeah, and definitely, and we have people at John Deere that are doing that, and we find it's just a win-win because it's a huge developmental opportunity. You know, if you think of somebody that's an accountant or a manufacturing engineer or an HR specialist, for them to be able to take their knowledge and skills out and review these agencies and learn from them. They're learning in the process, but they're also adding value to the panels at the same time.
Incredible.
The other thing I would say is that as a board member, you know, as I'm encouraging other people to invest in the United Way, these panel reviews just give me confidence that I can tell people when you invest in the United Way, you know that your money is going to have an impact, and you know that it's going to be well tracked and well taken care of, so you can have good confidence in your investments.
Yeah, you're a part of it. I mean, every step of the way in some way, shape, or form. So Daniel, talk about some other opportunities that are available for people that may want to volunteer or get involved. You guys have a whole hub.
We do. Yeah. What's great about our volunteer hub is just right now today there's over 150 different opportunities and ways to be involved.
Okay.
And I want to lift out a couple of those that we're doing
please
right now. So one thing that I'm really excited and passionate about is our Read United program. So a volunteer makes a weekly commitment, just 30 minutes of going into a school and reading with a kid. It's the same kid every week, and you read to them, they read to you, and you just develop a relationship and a joy of reading because of the value of being on grade level in the 3rd grade, making you almost 5 times more likely to graduate high school.
That's crazy.
It's such a good use of a volunteer's time. And the kid and the volunteer feel fulfilled. And right now we have 75 buddies who still need an adult mentor. So in this 2nd semester, I know there's 75 people out there who can do this work of just spending time with kids. So, and then of course another one is our volunteer income tax assistance program.
Which is pertinent right now,
Yeah, absolutely. And I know Max is going to be sharing more about that, but I think the key takeaway is that to help citizens, Quad citizens, prepare their tax documents for filing, you don't need to be a tax expert.
Okay.
We will train you. We will help you. If you have the time to be at one of our centers and connect with people, you can make that difference because not everybody can access that tax return money, and it's really important that we help them do that.
And you know what? A lot of us, we don't know what we're doing when we do our taxes, so this would just be good training for all of us anyways. And then just volunteer while you're at it. Well, if you want to get involved or check out the Volunteer Hub, visit unitedwayqc.org/volunteer. Daniel and Mary Pat, great information today. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you. And still to come on Quad Cities Live, the ways that United Way Quad Cities is empowering financial security. Speaking of, we're going to learn more after the break.
You're watching Quad Cities Live.
Financial security has a ripple effect. According to insight from United Way, access to a good-paying job enables a family to support a child's success in school, build your credit, save for the future. But despite positive employment figures right here in the QC, many residents still struggle with financial security due to those rising living costs. We're all feeling it. So here to talk about solutions is Max Biak, a United Way QC campaign specialist. Max, thank you so much for chatting with us today.
Thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely. And we're going to get specific in just a second, but United Way QC, it really leads and invests in programs beyond the one that we're specifically talking about today that really helps people get and keep better paying jobs. So that is a huge part of what you're involved in.
Absolutely. And financial security, it really has a ripple effect, right? With a good paying job, you're able to help your child's needs in schools. You're able to help them get like I said, it's financial security. You're able to help them get better health care, and really just it adds to your financial security.
Absolutely. And so we were just speaking about it in our last segment. Tax season is right around the corner. So we want to talk a little bit more about that. For decades now, actually, United Way has been helping people just get their taxes done.
Yeah, for over 20 years now, United Way Quad Cities has offered our VITA program. And what VITA stands for is Volunteer Income Tax Assistance. And the VITA Coalition is in partnership with the AARP. Like I said, we've been in partnership for about 20 years now.
Okay, so talk a little bit about why this program matters so much. You've been doing it for 20 years now, you know, hooking people up with volunteers that are helping them out. It matters, and then why does it matter this year really specifically?
Yeah, because as you mentioned earlier, you know, with the rising cost of living, things are so expensive now, and people just don't have the financial security that they'd like to have. So being able to go and get your taxes done reliably and free of charge, it gives that people that little extra boost that they need. And there's been misconceptions about where that tax money goes to, but all of our data shows that that money goes to our most basic needs.
Okay, so who is getting this help? You talk a little bit about the impact of the service on those folks that are getting it.
Absolutely. So our VITA program, it's based on an income threshold, so our program is available to any individual who earns less than $67,000 a year.
Okay, so the different people that are going in and receiving this help, are these people that you know, you've seen before in the past that they utilize this service every year? I mean, how do you kind of get the word out? Because I'm sure there's a lot of individuals and families out there that have not taken advantage of a service like this, and they should.
Absolutely. You know, we have the luxury of being around for so long that, you know, people are used to us. They know they come to us every year. But you're right, there are so many people in our community that just don't know about this. And I encourage anyone who's listening to this today, please check out our website, unitedwayqc.org/VITA. You're going to find so much more information about it.
Absolutely, and we'll make sure that we get that on the screen for folks too at the end of the segment. One thing that I found was interesting, and you all provided us some information for today. So an average refund, $1,129, so $1,129. That can pay for a whole lot of things.
Yeah,
for a
it can.
family.
You know, an average refund of $1,100 that can pay for about 4 weeks of groceries or about 1 month's rent.
And then people are just leaving it on the table.
They are,
every
absolutely.
year, and this could be like a huge leg up. I mean, think about it. Just paying that 1 month of rent.
Absolutely. You know, there are places around, and I've heard folks say that they're being charged $250, $300 to get their tax returns done.
Yeah.
Reach out to the United Way. Like I said, we'll do it completely free of charge.
Absolutely. If that's what's scaring you off, there are programs like this one, the VITA program, that are out there. And finally, just the last question I'll ask you, because we talked about people volunteering to do this. You know, it is difficult to do our own taxes, even when I do the one on the internet. But it doesn't have to be that hard. The training is actually not difficult, from what I understand.
No, the training is not bad at all.
Okay.
It is IRS supplied training. We offer training sessions where we'll have site coordinators there who are going to help you do that. And I know I just mentioned our site coordinators, but each location is going to have 2 site coordinators whose sole responsibility is to kind of double check your work, but also help you with any questions you have asked.
Well, that is wonderful.
Yeah.
Are you still in need as we approach
tax season? Yes, we are. Yes, we are in need of volunteers. So if you're interested and you want more information, again, our website, unitedwayqc.org/VITA.
Okay, awesome. And we'll get that on the screen for everybody right now. So if you do want to volunteer, or if you're somebody who is watching who is going, you know what, this is something that I need to do. I'm not great about getting my taxes done, or I think it's too expensive, and you might fall into the category. You want to know if you're eligible or what documents you need. Just go to the website that's right there at the bottom of your screen, unitedwayqc.org/VITA. Max, great information. Thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having my colleagues and I on.
Absolutely. Okay, well, we have been hearing about all kinds of programs, initiatives, and opportunities with United Way Quad Cities. We're going to wrap things up after the break with more on how you can join this growing movement right now.
You're watching Quad Cities Live.
Well, as we've heard throughout the show, United Way Quad Cities is all about solving the community's biggest problems. But it takes a lot of people getting involved to make a change. So if you want to contribute to this growing movement and create an opportunity for every person in every one of our neighborhoods, just visit unitedwayqc.org. Meantime, United Way President and CEO Renee Gellerman is back with us now, along with Mark Burton, a longtime United Way volunteer. Thank you both for being here.
Yeah,
Great to be here.
Yeah, well, Mark, we'll start with you. So tell us a little bit about yourself. You actually have a personal story that kind of highlights your work with United Way over the years, during employment and after.
Yeah, when I was an employee at John Deere for almost 40 years,
Oh, wow.
25 of those years I was involved with United Way as a volunteer, as a donor, and kind of re-energized that here. I've been retired for about 10 years and was asked to help do some fundraising and reach out to some volunteers, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten about some of the great times I had with these folks.
Yeah, I can imagine. So what are your favorite parts about being involved with United Way, or some of the different ways that you have volunteered over the years? I'm sure it differs between, you know, when you were an employee at John Deere to now.
It does. It is different. And I think the opportunities for retirees is just as great, if not larger, because we have a little more time. We're not just out looking for breakfast on Friday mornings, you know. So, but we can volunteer our time. We can do some asset-based giving now because it was workplace giving, and you know we don't make as much money as we used to, but we can do some asset-based giving now, and it's a great opportunity for retirees.
Yeah, that is something, Renee, that I don't think a lot of people necessarily would think about. But it is a great use of people's time and energy. So there's no shortage of opportunities to get involved, as we've heard throughout the show here today, as a volunteer, of course, in person or as a donor. But we're going to need a lot of people, of course, to volunteer in order to close some of the gaps that we also heard about today.
Right, right. There are a lot of wonderful opportunities to volunteer in our community, and people have a menu of ways to do that, either a one-time or overtime, like you heard about Read United, or for tax preparation, or what Mark is doing. He's involved, really, the biggest place where it lives out in volunteering and giving is really through our donor networks. You heard about Women United. We have an emerging leaders group, and those people are really giving their time, their talent, and their resources. Mark is part of our Tocqueville Society, and those are a great opportunity to not only give the money, but then see the impact of what your dollars are doing in the community.
Absolutely, and I think too, if you're somebody who owns a company or you're part of a company and you're just looking for a way to, it's a great way to get your company's name out there too. Let's be honest. I mean, get involved and network in that way. With United Way, that's huge.
We have 250 strategic partnerships with companies, and we bring the data, the relationships, and we can really add positive things to their workplace culture, their social impact in the community, and we can connect them in meaningful ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a couple of segments ago, we heard about the Volunteer Hub. So that is another way, if you specifically are looking for a way to give back. The reading to the kids, they're looking for more than 70 folks still to join some kids and be a buddy to some of those kids. So anyways, if you want to learn about United Way, you want to contribute in some way, just visit the website unitedwayqc.org. If you want to get involved though, visit unitedwayqc.org/volunteer. That's where you're going to find out about all of those opportunities. Renee and Mark, thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate it. Absolutely. And thank you so much for watching. Your News at 4 is next.